The Street Fighter 6 closed beta test concluded not too long ago, and it's safe to say that it was an unmitigated success. Street Fighter 6 looks amazing, and we can't wait to see what the open beta will look like. One of the most interesting aspects of the closed beta, though, was seeing how Street Fighter 6 differed from the games that came before. Sure, the graphics aren't too far removed from Street Fighter V, but there have been some huge developments that make the game an even more exciting prospect. Hey there, this is Arya from That Blasted Salami, and in this DashFight video, we'll be taking a look at some of the biggest changes put into Street Fighter 6. Just to clarify, there are lots of big changes here, but we'll focus on the ones that really move the game forward in terms of gameplay, and how these changes affect Street Fighter, fighting games in general, and possibly even the perception of fighting games as an esport. First, let's talk about one of the more controversial talking points in video games: easy controls. The arguments surrounding simple controls in fighting games have been around for a while, and both sides have valid arguments. Capcom has introduced optional modern controls for Street Fighter 6. The way this is implemented is that there are buttons designated for light, medium, and heavy attacks, and also a dedicated button for special moves. There are also buttons for assisted combos, parries, and throws. With this change, Street Fighter 6 is set to become the most beginner-friendly iteration of the series yet. Let's face it, fighting games aren't easy to get into at first, and we have countless examples of people getting frustrated at the high skill level required to play them. Just look at Noko at the AT&T Annihilator Cup, for example.
Hadouken! 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 That's all Jack knows how to do. Imagine pressing two fucking buttons. Imagine pressing two fucking buttons. Weird champ, weird champ, weird champ.
With the modern control feature, Street Fighter 6 will prove to be more welcoming to newbies. But where Capcom has been smart about it is in ensuring that the modern controls can't be abused to the point where it makes getting better not even worth it, since you effectively lose a huge portion of your normal moves in electing to use them. So they effectively just act as training wheels for new players until they're ready to play Street Fighter as it was originally intended. In the area of single-player content, Street Fighter has lagged behind for the longest time. Aside from arcade mode, there's generally been little else for players to do in Street Fighter. In fact, one of the biggest criticisms of Street Fighter V at launch was the poor amount of single-player content. But Street Fighter 6 is ready to right that wrong with the introduction of the World Tour mode. Here, players have a chance to explore the world of Metro City with their own customized avatar, while experiencing a lot of the things that make Street Fighter special. To be clear, this is not the first time Street Fighter has dabbled in a World Tour mode. There was one in Street Fighter Alpha 3 where you picked an existing character, an ism, and were sent to various locations to fight characters and bosses. The difference is that Street Fighter 6's mode looks like it'll be a lot more immersive and will feature a full open world, meaning you can roam around as you please. Also, you can pick your character and make them uniquely yours, which is a big deal. This is a huge leap for Capcom, and before now, Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur were perhaps the fighting games doing the best job for solo players. Now, Street Fighter 6 looks to blow everyone out the water. Modern games are doing a lot more to expand their horizons and keep players playing, and it's so encouraging to see Street Fighter joining the bandwagon. Become DashFight supporter on Patreon. Get early access to DashFight guides. Click the link in the description. This leads to the next major change we have to talk about, and that's character customization. In Street Fighter 6, you'll be able to create whatever character you want. What makes Street Fighter 6's character customization so impressive is the sheer amount of options available to you. You can make your character shredded, or maybe you want them to be huge. You can make them young, wizened, buff, or skinny. Whatever you want to do, you're just about free to do it. Soul Calibur 6 also featured a comprehensive character customization feature, which is also really impressive, and it has some things that Street Fighter seems to lack, including being able to pick a demi-human race. But considering this is Street Fighter's first whack at this, it's insane just how much freedom you have when it comes to creating your character. This is a plus for the game as it gives it personality and helps draw in new players. Some of the biggest modern video games owe their success to the variety of things players are able to do within it. People aren't always going to like a game's main content, but might stick around due to one feature or another. The character customization might not move the needle for Street Fighter 6 as regards tournaments or competitive play, but certainly makes it a much more welcoming place for casual players. The next change is perhaps the biggest of them all, the drive system. Street Fighter has consistently introduced new systems with every iteration of Street Fighter. For example, Street Fighter 4 had the Focus Attack and Ultra systems. Street Fighter 5 had the controversial V system, and now Street Fighter 6 has the Drive system. This is a system that the entire game rests on, and combat in Street Fighter 6 is going to be dictated by how you utilize Drive. The Drive Gauge is different from the meter for supers, which isn't new in Street Fighter but is a welcome innovation. The system is designed to encourage creativity and player autonomy, making it a great improvement from the V system, which forced you to play a certain way to activate V-trigger before you can access some of your cooler moves. Every round in Street Fighter 6 starts with a full drive bar, which you can use to pull off fancy moves including Drive Rush, Drive Impact, and your EX moves. If you run out of drive, you go into a burnout state, which leaves you vulnerable to chip damage, gives you extra block stun, and can even leave you stunned in the corner. The idea for 3 levels of Super is also a nice callback from the Alpha series, as Street Fighter V only had 1 critical art per character, while Street Fighter IV featured a critical art and an Ultra move. All in all, the drive system, while perhaps a little confusing for newbies, feels like a big step in the right direction for competitive play. So I debated putting this in here because every fighting game tends to have at least 1 new character. However, I think this is important to mention since fighting games can either build or lose interest based on the new characters introduced. In the Street Fighter 6 closed beta, we had 2 new characters in Kimberly and Jamie. Street Fighter tends to do this thing with new characters where they try to ensure that they're tied to existing characters somehow. Think of Laura and Ed, for example. Sure, we have the likes of G who came from nowhere, but it seems like Street Fighter 6 is going with the formula of introducing characters that have some resemblance to other names we're already familiar with. For Kimberly, we know she's a student of Bushin Ryu and is well acquainted with Guy. This has given her a platform in terms of moveset and lore with which to build on, and the potential for all sorts of interesting ties within the lore makes her very intriguing. Her design and mechanics have also been very well received by the fanbase. How about Jamie? Well, he's already been described as a kind of fusion of yin and yang from Street Fighter 3 and 4, and his design is incredible. His drink mechanic is innovative, and can we talk about that luscious hair? If the beta is anything to go by, everyone is already in love with Jamie, and this will only grow when the game comes out for everyone to see and play. Real-time commentary is another feature coming to Street Fighter 6. Not everyone is going to like this, and thankfully you can turn it off if it isn't your thing, but it adds a layer of community engagement that wasn't always there in other Street Fighter games. This way, anyone playing the game can feel like they're in a tournament and can probably imagine a host of people cheering them on. For the English team, we have the excellent talent of Tasty Steve, Vicious, and James Chen, while the Japanese team has Aru, Kosuke Hiraiwa, and Demon Kaka. From what we've heard from the beta, the commentary is actually pretty decent, although I reckon it might feel a little stale after a couple of hundred games, hearing some of the same stuff over and over again. All in all though, it's definitely a net positive and makes for a fun experience while playing Street Fighter 6. And that's that. Obviously these aren't the only changes, but some of the biggest. Street Fighter 6 looks like it's ticking all the right boxes. The netcode is great, the lobby system is a lot of fun, and it's introduced an integrated social and community aspect that feels fresh and new not just for Street Fighter, but even fighting games in general. What has been your favorite change? Or what other change would you like to see that isn't there right now? While we wait for Street Fighter 6, DashFight will have a lot more videos about it, so don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care and be kind to one another.